Well, there's a big pressure that we all feel, and that is the pressure to become commoditized. In my book, we call it the commodity monster because it will eat you alive. We have to realize in business that let's not worry about perfect. Let's try some things. Let's come up with some ideas that at first we go, oh, no, no, we're not going to do that. No, no, that's stupid. No, no, no. Let's try them.
Thanks for joining us again on the Better Business, Better Life podcast. I'm your host, Debra Chantry-Taylor, and I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs lead their ideal lives by creating better businesses, because as I like to say, life is too bloody short. I'm a certified EOS implementer, I'm an FBA-accredited family business advisor, and most importantly, I'm a business owner myself with several business interests, which means all the things I talk about on this podcast with my guests, with my clients, with my experts are very much practical and pragmatic. There's no theory in here at all. I work with established business owners and their leadership teams to help them live their ideal entrepreneurial life using EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and also tips and tools from our expert guests. Today's guest is a 2 times Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year recipient. He's also been inducted into the Ernst Young Hall of Fame. He's got over 4 decades of experience in his field, and he talks to people about how to keep great employees and give them real meaning. Today, he's going to share with you, I love this, how to fight the commodity monster and win hearts, minds, and market share. And if you listen closely enough, he'll also be talking about why we should be like the Rolling Stones. Today's guest is Barry LaBov. He is the founder and CEO of LaBov Marketing, Communications, and Training, and he's also the author of the book, The Power of Differentiation, Win Hearts, Minds, and Market Share. So welcome to the show, Barry. It's great to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Debra, it is an honor. You are so charming. I'm looking forward to this. I think we should have a really great conversation.
I have no doubt we're going to have a great conversation. We've already established a whole bunch of things in common, but I know a little about you, but my listeners don't. So I would love you to share the Barry story. I must just share that when I was reading about Barry, it was like he's had 44 years of experience in his business. He was telling me they actually run on EOS. They do level 10 meetings. So I'd love to learn a little bit about how you got to where you are and what you do.
Well, it was a mistake. I didn't mean to do it, Debra. I was a musician. I wanted to write songs and have hit songs and a hit band. And as I went down that journey, I started a jingle company, those irritating little ditties. And I had a band which was doing well, had a minor hit song, let's say, and had some songs published. And then one day my father passed away. He was young, 63 years old. I was under 30 years old. And Debra, what happened was I thought, I'm kind of playing both sides here. I'm in a band and I'm also running a little company. I got to realize I don't know how long I'm going to be around. So let's commit to something. So that was a long time ago, but I committed to running a company. And what I've done over these 40 plus years is I've run a company kind of like a rock band, where I look at each person, I try to find out what they do really well and give them a chance to do that. I realize that anybody, no matter what their position, can come up with a really great idea. And every day, one of our core values is jamming, like a jam session. And we are so collaborative. It's really off the wall. We're so collaborative. So what that has brought us is we've been able to win a couple of Entrepreneur of the Year awards. We have wonderful clients that include Macallan Scotch in the UK, Harley Davidson, Audi, Volkswagen, Carrier Heating and Air Conditioning, all that. I could go on and on. Wonderful, wonderful clients. And we focus on one thing, and that is differentiating, finding out what makes a brand, a product, a company unique or distinct. And we'll talk about it today, but that's the only thing I focus on in my entire life.
It's great to have that kind of clarity, isn't it, in terms of what you're good at. And I think it's something that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with. particularly early on, I think we tend to try and be everything to everybody, and we try all different things, and then we've sort of suddenly realized that we're spread so thin that we're not doing anything particularly well.
Yeah, I think it's easy. I do think what you said is really, really insightful. I think it's easy to say yes all the time in the beginning and try to be all things. And I'm okay with that. But I think as leaders, there is a point where we have to realize we cannot do everything. We can't promise to do everything. But on the opposite side, Deborah, we have to realize there are one, two, three, maybe four things we're doing as a company, as a brand that are really unique and valuable. And you know what? We have to make sure we know what they are, and we have to be able to communicate them.
I'm going to use some US terminology, but we talk about the go-to-market strategy, and the thing we talk about is three uniques. What are the three things that together make you completely unique? Your competitors may have one or two of them, but actually they are unique things. And people struggle with it because, if they're trying to be everything to everybody and everything's important, nothing's important, they can't actually understand that. Even established businesses that I work with, and some of the brands you've talked about, they've been around for a long, 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 long time, but it takes a while for them to get really clear about what makes them really different.
Well, there's a big pressure that we all feel, and your clients feel this. Every company feels it to some extent, but a lot of mine do. And that is the pressure to become commoditized. In my book, we call it the commodity monster because it will eat you alive. It will eat you up, and it's your pressure. It's the pressure that you feel that says, okay, let's lower our price. Let's make our product look, taste, smell, be priced like the next product that someone else is making. And what happens is we lose our uniqueness, our differentiation, and we lose the hearts and minds and souls of our employees.
I was going to say that one of the things I love when I look at your book was actually the subtitle of it, which is Win Hearts, Minds, and Market Share, because that is the distinct opposite of the commodity monster, as you called it, in terms of being really clear. But it has additional benefits beyond just the customer benefits, right?
When you fight this commodity monster and you discover, you don't try to create a brand new uniqueness, you discover what you're doing that is distinct and you capitalize on it, you name it. We might say, we do this and that because, well, that's just what our company does. No, we have to name it because those of us who have children don't have child 1, 2, and 3. We have children with names, and we tell people why we named those kids that. And then we tell you all about our kid, right? Same thing about your unique differentiators, your 2, 3, or 4 things. They should have a name. You should explain why you named them that, and you should tell all about them. But then what's really, really great, Deborah, is before you launch that to the world, you launch it to the most important people, your employees, the people who design it, sell it, market it, fix it, service it, whatever they do. You've got to give them a sense of significance. They've got to feel like, wait a minute, we're doing something special here. And once you do that, you mentioned the advantages, Deborah. Once you do that, you have an army that's going to battle for you. You have people who are actually going to do a good job because, hey, we're doing something important, people. And they might just stay a little longer. And oh, by the way, when it comes to your customers, the customers will feel that from your employees. And this is all good news to entrepreneurs and leaders. You can charge a premium for it because you're standing out. Nobody's doing it quite the way you are doing it.
Yeah. I think this is particularly important. So I live in New Zealand. I work between New Zealand and Australia. I have a couple of overseas clients as well. But generally, my work is in New Zealand and Australia. And the marketplace over here, they're so driven by price. And I have this fight with clients a lot of the time. It's like, but why do you want to be part of that everything else that everybody else part of what everybody else is doing? Don't you want to be different? And it's never about price. We don't buy. I shouldn't say never. We very rarely buy on price, do we?
We very rarely do. If we buy on price, it's because we don't think any of the products are unique. And that's because somebody or somebodies have succumbed to the commodity monster. They have all turned into a same old, same old. But we've got to realize, unless you are a brand new product that was created somewhere during this podcast, you probably have been around for a year 10 years, 212 years, whatever it is, and you're doing something good and you need to stand up for it. One of our clients, Harley Davidson, is a great example. Over 100 years. All right. And if you talk to the Harley Davidson leadership, they're so smart. They're brilliant people. They're the first to say that their product is not always perfect. There is no perfect product. But what they will also say is that nobody offers what Harley does. So they offer this beautifully designed bike. They offer a sisterhood and brotherhood of owners who embrace you when you buy that brand and you become part of their family. Now, nobody else is going to give you that. And if you value that, you're joining that brotherhood or sisterhood, and you'll pay a little bit of a premium or maybe a lot of a premium because of how great that product is and how wonderful the experience is.
I think that's a really valid point. And I have a couple of friends who own Harley Davidsons. I know that it's a little bit like a cult, but in a good way, as in, they feel like they belong and they are so well looked after. If anything goes wrong, they can take the bike back in. They're looked after like a king or a queen, but also that they proudly wear Harley Davidson branded everything. It's like you actually expand your reach by your customers becoming your advocates, the people who are singing from your songbook.
Well, many of their customers, their owners, have tattoos on their body parts that say Harley Davidson. So if you've got a tattoo of your brand that's on somebody's body parts, you've done well. But there are no commodities that are tattooed on people.
That's so true. Okay, so we've chosen an example which most people listening will say, well, that's easy. Harley Davidson is really unique. Can you give me another example of maybe a product or a service where it didn't appear quite so unique in the beginning until you delved deeper to find out what was really behind it?
Sure, we work with a copper processing company. Okay, so that's not exciting to most people. When we first started to talk to them, they said, look, their reputation was they were the cheapest product. They were commoditized. In fact, their customers just used to call them the cheap copper guys. I mean, that's what their nickname was. Hey, the cheap copper guys. Well, what we learned was they had a number of great differentiators, but they had one that was extraordinary, and that was their copper was made from recycled or reclaimed materials. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it means it's very sustainable. It's earth friendly. Yet they were not charging a premium, they were charging less. And in this world, if you have a sustainable product versus one that is not, you have an advantage. So they named it, they told the story about it, they celebrated it, and today they are the number one market share in their industry, and they are the number one premium product. As the CEO said to me on a podcast, he said, we've made a lot of money from this, and he deserves to make a lot of money. So that is a product that we don't even know. Like, for instance, those of us watching this on a laptop or on a phone, you probably have copper wire that has been processed by that company inside that phone or that laptop. Okay. So that's a story of a really wonderful company who discovered what they had been doing already, and they capitalized on it.
And I think that's the important thing, because I picked that up when you were talking earlier. It's not about trying to invent something. It's about discovering what already exists. And as you said, naming it, telling the story around it, really bringing it to life. It's not about trying to find the next greatest whatever to kind of say, well, that's what we do. It's about something that already is there.
Well, it's easier for you as a leader and for your individuals at the company to live up to what they are doing and doing well than it is to say, okay, you know what? We're changing everything. We're going to be the cheap people. We're going to lower prices. We're going to sell 10 times as much. We're not going to make hardly any money, but we got to push it out the door. And all of a sudden, everything those people came to work to do has been thrown away. All of a sudden, your customers who have been turning to you for something are going, wait a minute, you guys have completely changed. I don't want to go give you my money. So what I'm saying to people is, it's easier for you to wake up in the morning and say, you know what, we're going to do what we do best, and we're going to charge for it. And we're going to have employees that are part of this excited culture right there with us. And they're going to love it, and they're going to do a better job, and they're going to stay with us for years and years.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I want to give you a high five too. If you were in person, I'll give you a high five because I think that, yeah, cool. Thank you. Because I think that, I love it when people actually embrace this kind of thinking and actually really search for what's going on and are happy to kind of look at it. So yeah, any other examples? I think we should have a couple more examples if you can, around, maybe things that are not quite so sexy. I mean, I work with some clients, you kind of think of, metal recycling and growing fruit and vegetables, and you kind of go, actually, some of those do feel slightly commoditized, but my metal recycling firm actually decided that what they did better than anybody else was experience. It was the experience of dealing with them, the joy that you had when you went into their yards and the people that they had. It wasn't about the metal at all. Not quite sure about the fruit and vegetable people yet. What other examples can you give us?
Well, we can go food. I work with a family-run but very large regional bread company, and I was inside one of their facilities, and I said, "Hey, what do you do that's unique? You've been around 120 years." And they go, "We do nothing unique." I said, "Okay, well, what's at least a little different?" They go, "We do nothing different. We're no better than anyone else. There's nothing special about us." I went, "Okay, this is not going the way we want." I said, "Let me ask a different question. Is there anything you do, any ingredient you have that you spend more time on or pay more money for than your competitors do?" And the CFO said, "Oh, yeah, we have this grain that we ship in from Northwestern United States. It's much more expensive than the grain we could get right here. But, we put it in our bread and it makes our bread taste very, very nice, very sweet and smooth. It's not a harsh tasting grain." I said, "Okay, and you pay more money for this?" They go, "Yes, because we want our bread to taste that way." I said, "Okay, what do you call that grain?" And they said, "We just say it's grain." I said, "Okay, how do you promote it?" And they go, "We don't." I said, "Okay, that's a differentiator. We are doing that." I said, "Now, how do you share this with your employees that you actually spend 3 times as much money on this grain?" And they said, "We never really mentioned it. We didn't think it would be that important." I said, "Well, you're spending extra money and time to ensure that your bread is the most tasty, delicious bread. I think it should start with your employees knowing it. We need to name that grain and we need to promote it." So that's another example. It was right there. They've been doing it for decades. It's just they were not utilizing all the good things they're doing to share it with their employees and their customers.
What did you call the grain, by the way? I'm really intrigued.
Well, I can't tell you what it is. It's right in the middle of some changing and naming and yeah, but it's it's the type of thing that you've got to look at it that it's so important for us to identify what we're doing and why, because there are reasons behind it. And that's what I like to do with clients. But like in my book, I describe how we do it so somebody could read the book and try to do it themselves. I just want to see people identify the magic in what they're doing.
What you're saying is, it's about really asking the right questions. So that in itself is a skill, right?
Mhm.
I always liken it to people who, I'm going to use my EOS example, but you've got people who self-implement EOS and they can do a fantastic job. And for some people, it
Mhm.
works really, really well. But in reality, learning the tools and things is just, you could learn that from YouTube, you could learn it from wherever you can apply them yourselves. Having somebody externally come in and ask the right questions is actually where you get the most value, because you and I, we're not in that day-to-day business, day in, day
Yeah.
out, very blinkered in terms of what we're doing. We're coming in from an outside perspective, and we're prepared to actually challenge the assumptions. We're prepared to ask some questions and really dig that out of them. And I'm guessing that's what
Yeah.
your team does when they work with a client.
We do. I think I'll jump a little bit on that concept a tiny bit and tweak it, let's say. I think it's asking the right questions, but it's also listening between the lines as to what people say, to where their emotion gets very high, where their excitement is evident. We ask a question of our clients, their employees, their customers, their suppliers. We ask, among others, we ask, what is it that this company should not change? What should they not change? And what's interesting is, Deborah, and I'll give you a specific example, and I can share the name of what we found. We worked with a law firm, and They were viewed as an old, stodgy group of expensive people in a particular city. And I thought, oh boy, that doesn't sound too exciting. They were in competition with a very, very large amount of younger law firms that were cooler, hipper, and a little cheaper. And we went and talked with various customers, employees, and we just said, hey, what should they not change? What are they doing well? And we heard a lot of different things, but we heard one person say, well, it's their bandwidth. And I said, bandwidth. I thought, that's interesting. So we're talking to somebody else, and I go, well, what is it that they do, or why do you work with them? This was a client. And they said, well, they've got great bandwidths. And all of a sudden, we're hearing this word, bandwidth. Bandwidth, Debra, was their differentiator because it explained why they could charge a premium, why they could have kind of an older office. They're over 150 years old as a law firm, but you know what? They did virtually every type of law. And so if you wanted to go to one firm and have a group of men and women that understood your business, whether it was going to be employment law, technology law, trademark law, whatever, this was the firm. Yes, you could go to the younger, hipper, cooler firm, but they would be more likely limited. This firm had bandwidth, and that is what they built their reputation around.
I love it. Yeah, and as you said, it's an insight, not necessarily from inside, but it's an insight from the customers who will actually can tell you what they love about them.
Well, came from their employees too. See, the employees said, yeah, I love we have all this bandwidth. I'm going, bandwidth.
Love the concept. Okay, that's great. So if somebody's sitting here and listening at the moment and going, oh, you know what, I think we are just part of the commodity monster, if you like. What would be the first thing you would suggest that they do?
I mentioned it. I'll give them a couple things they could do, Debra. Number one, go to the people who understand your brand the most. So that can be your employees, that can be customers, your leadership, sure, former customers, that's fine too. And ask them, what is it that you do or you create that you should never, never change? What is it? And if they say, oh, you're great people. Okay, get a little deeper. What does that mean? If they say, well, I like your truck that you do. Okay, but what about the truck that we should never change? And you're going to start hearing things. You have to listen, though, because you want to find out what are those strange words like bandwidth, strange words that keep cropping up. So that's number one. Related to that I think is very important. I want people to listen to this great, great slogan, words create worlds. Okay, I did not create it, but words create worlds. So I want them to do this. Once you learn at least some basic idea of what your uniqueness is, find words that are not typical. Find words that are specific, that describe you uniquely. Don't go with the typical words. So don't go service, selection, quality, value. Don't do it. Because you know what? Nobody will listen. Don't say, oh, we have high quality. Don't say, oh, we really care about doing a good job. Okay, guess what? You're going to put people to sleep. I had a client and we were talking to them and they kept using one word. And I said, okay, this has to be in your core values and we'll use it in your language. And it was the word rigor, R-I-G-O-R. And it was because they say, you know what? We've got rigor. We're going to make sure our truck is tested and tested because it's got to go through really rugged situations. It has to be there. And we have the rigor to do it. I said, okay, you own rigor. Don't say, oh, we like to do nice things and we want to do quality. No, we deliver rigor. And the point is, look at the words that describe what you do uniquely. Push yourself. Now, Debra, I'm not going to ask you this. I'll ask the audience. How many words are there in the English language? I'll tell you, 200,000 words, 200,000. Let's look for words. You ask me, what should they do? Let's look for a word that's not in the 7 or 8 that I mentioned, like service, selection, quality. Find your version of rigor. Find your version of bandwidth. Find it and hold on to it and do it. Like I say, when I'm meeting with new clients, they go, okay, well, what about you? You know, there are marketing agencies and gurus all over the place. I say, yeah, we only focus on one word, differentiation. That's it. And they go, oh, you're the differentiation people. And I go, yeah, it's 6 syllables, 15 letters. It's hard to pronounce, but that's us. Differentiation. And I have had, and I want the audience to hear this, I've had prospective customers say to me, yeah, we already know what makes us different. We don't need that. And I go, great. You don't need me. You don't need my company, because we will find and we will help promote and we will help celebrate your differentiation. If you already got it, you don't need us. And my point is, you got to realize it can't be all things to all people, but find those very, very few words that you own, and don't have them be the same words your competitors own, because then it doesn't count. If your competitor has rigor, don't go, well, we got rigor also. You got to come up with your own version, but stand out, identify your magic, take those extra steps to dig in and really honor what you're doing.
It certainly is a process, and I suppose there is definite benefits in having an expert involved, because you do know the right questions to ask, you know how to get to those things, but also I suppose in terms of articulating it as well. Because you obviously finely attuned to the language that they're using, you're picking up on the bandwidth or the rigor, which maybe they wouldn't. But then it's also about how you tell that story as well, isn't it? So you've got we've nailed the word, but how do we tell the story, and how do we actually articulate that to our internal people and also to our external people?
Well, here's a message to the audience. It's not enough to have a story. So if you say, yeah, about 20 years ago, 3 people came together and, you know, they bought a bunch of equipment and blah, blah. Okay, you're putting people to sleep. What you have to do is tell the compelling story that shares your differentiation. I'll give an example. I'll do it off the top of my head. Three medical technicians banded together 40 years ago and decided they were going to create an ambulance that would not only be safe for the occupants, but would allow the patient inside to potentially have their life not only protected, but saved. So we came up with technology and medical advancements that are inside our ambulance. And every year we produce an ambulance that will last 10 years. And each one of our ambulances that we produce will save or protect 100,000 lives. Okay. Now, my point is, you go, wow, they care about people. It was formed by people who were medical experts. They are developing something that will protect people and save lives. Now, you tell that story, that's great. It's not, well, we do a pretty good product. We sell it. It's cheap. It's like other people. You know, we're a local company. We're just another ambulance. No, here's why we do it. And so your story has to be interesting. Because I'll work with people, they go, yeah, we need a story. I said, no, you need your story, not a story. Don't give me a story that if you put your competitor's name in the story instead of yours, that it would be just fine. No, this has to be a story your competitor could not tell, because it belongs to you.
And again, I think that's the benefit of working with as an expert in this field, is that you can pull that stuff out that most of us can't see, because we sometimes lose it in just the day-to-dayness, and so it becomes the vanilla flavor that everybody kind of tells, or worse still, they try and follow a formula that was somebody else's formula.
Well, Debra, you do this. You're a leader in your field. What you do is you help your clients understand things that are right in front of them, but they're not seeing them because they're so close. That's what I do. I work with brilliant engineers and manufacturing geniuses, and I am not going to outthink them on their designs. I'm just going to say, hey, did you know that what you have here is pretty unique? Why don't we do something about it? And they go, well, it's just us being us. And that's what you deal with too. We have to find those unique, genuine aspects of a company. and we have to make sure they hold on to them, they honor them. And that's what my job is. And I believe that's very similar to what you do with your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very much about they already have the answers, but they're so close to it that they just don't see it anymore. And I think if you think about expertise, sometimes the things that we just take for granted that I assume the things I know, I assume everybody knows. And then I share something where they go, "Oh my goodness, that's genius." It's like, it's not really. It's just common knowledge, isn't it? It's not common knowledge. And because it's stuff that you've actually learned over a long time. And I suppose with your businesses, similarly, they just think of themselves as great engineers. We're just great engineers, what we do. But what they don't see is the uniqueness, the differentiation that they actually have because they're doing it day in, day out.
Right. It's like you're dealing with an artist who painted this beautiful painting, and the artist goes, "Yeah, it's okay. It's nice." And you go, "No, it's the most beautiful painting I've ever seen." And the point is, it's up to us to identify that in our role, because the artist or the engineer or the brilliant person who started the company is really great at doing those things, but not really great at identifying and articulating how to celebrate and honor it.
Perfect. Okay, I'm really curious. It's got nothing to do with what we've just been talking about, but I was looking at our notes here and I'd say, musician, do you still do any music by any chance? Because that's a very creative art form, isn't it?
It is a great creative art form. I do music. I played music just last night just for fun. I can play by ear, so I can hear a song and I go, okay, and I can go to the piano or guitar and play it. I'm one of those guys. I do. Music is really great. It showed me that, and I'll share this. I hope this is valuable to people. It showed me that perfection is a wasted journey. You don't want to be perfect. So I will share this. I don't know if people realize this, but imagine your favorite song, whatever it is. I grew up the Beatles as an example. So let's say it's the song Something, which is like the number one, two, or three most recorded song in the world in history. Okay. Well, when Paul McCartney was playing guitar one day, his fingers made a mistake and they moved to the wrong part of the fretboard on the guitar. And he stopped and he looked at it and he go, "Wait a minute, what is that?" And he goes, that sounds beautiful. It's magic. And he went back and forth and he created the song around it. Okay. Most songs started out as a mistake, something where somebody was playing something and went, "Ooh, what's that? Oh, wait a minute. That's not bad. That's interesting." We have to realize in business, Deborah, that let's not worry about perfect. Let's try some things. Let's come up with some ideas that at first we go, "Oh, no, we're not going to do that. No, that's stupid." No. Let's try them. In the United States, there's and I know you have it in New Zealand, but there's a very popular campaign for Geico insurance, okay? And it's a little gecko of all things, okay? It's a gecko, okay? Well, the people who created that idea came to the leader of Geico and said, "We think this could be a great campaign." The leader was so afraid that the board of directors would be furious with it. He didn't show them the campaign. He just let it go out there because he knew they would hate it. Turns out it turned into one of the most successful ad campaigns in history. But had he shown it to them, it's likely they would have said, "This is stupid. This is a mistake. Don't do it." You got to try things, give things a shot. And that's what I learned in music. It's called jamming. That's what a jam session is. And you get into a jam session with other musicians and you have no idea how it'll turn out. It may be a waste of time, or you could write something that is the best piece of music ever written. You just don't know. So go do it.
Yeah, I love it. And it's also about being able to kind of let go a wee bit as well, because as entrepreneurs, we can often be control freaks, and I'm working well at the moment. I won't say it is, but every time anything leaves that business, he has to put his eye over it. He has to make sure it's perfect, and he's hampering the growth of the business because it takes too long and things don't get put out there. And yeah, it really is. Was it perfection? There is a saying, I can't remember what it is now, but it kills you. 80% is often good enough. And as you said, mistakes are often some of the best things that can possibly happen to us.
Well, we live in a world that is filled with mistakes, but we don't think about it. So every time your iPhone or your EV, if you own an EV, has an update over the cloud, much of that are mistakes being fixed. They're called fixes by some people, right? But you know what? We're okay with that. And my point is, in your business, why not try it? Why not give it a shot? Why not pilot that? The Rolling Stones, I'll go back into old rock and roll. The Rolling Stones would write songs in their early days, and before they would record them on an album, they would go to the local clubs in London and they would barge in and say, hey, we're the Rolling Stones, we're here. So whatever band was playing would say, hey, it's the Rolling Stones. And the Rolling Stones would get up and play a couple of those songs to see how people received them. And some of those songs that they thought were going to be big hits, Deborah, never, ever, ever saw the light of day because they thought, oh, these go over terrible. But some of the songs that they had very little confidence in, like I Can't Get No Satisfaction, oh my gosh, that became one of the greatest hits. You don't know. Pilot them, give it a shot.
I love it. Be like the Rolling Stones.
Be like the Rolling Stones. Yeah, why not?
Okay, cool. Hey, you've already given a huge amount of value so far, and I have no doubt that your book goes into a lot more detail. But if we just had to leave here with 3 things that you'd really encourage people to do, what would those 3 things be?
I'll give you 3. One thing is, I talked earlier about this, words. Listen to the words that you use in describing your business. And I want you to never use certain words like just or only or kinda or sorta. Show some respect to your business. Don't say, well, we're a local manufacturer. No, no, no. Don't say, well, we're a small look. Don't say we're a family. Well, we're a family. Okay, please, please show respect to your business in the way you talk about it. And don't allow your team to do that. Don't be a kind of, a local business. You're not in business for that. I mean, Macallan Scotch has been in business for 200 plus years. I know the people at Macallan, they don't say, we're just another local Scotch whiskey. No, they are the premium Scotch whiskey in the world. All right. So really pay attention to how you describe your business. All right. So that's number 1.
We have this thing, the tall poppy syndrome in New Zealand. Americans don't suffer from it. Australians don't suffer from it. New Zealanders, unfortunately, do. And we're always very nervous about sort of putting ourselves out there because somebody will shoot us down. And so you do hear that kind of language a lot in New Zealand where people are nervous of owning who they are and saying to people what they are. How would you encourage them to overcome that?
Well, I think there's a difference between saying, I think we're the coolest, greatest, smartest, which I think is garbage, and saying we produce 15 of the top 20 highest ranked such and suches in the United States, New Zealand, and Australia, or we have a process that no other company has to do blank, blank, and blank. That's factual. If you use adjectives and hyperbole, I agree with you. If you're just saying we're really great because it's us, I agree. That's bad. But facts are facts. And I think that if you're doing something, if you've been in business for 212 years, that's a fact. It's not the tall poppy. It is the truth. So that's what I say. I say, you don't have to use hyperbole, adjectives, and flowery language, but let people know what you do. Like I said, we focus on one word, differentiation. I didn't say we're the coolest, neatest, best looking, wackiest group of people. We're not, and I'm certainly not, but I focus on one thing, and I have a process that has one step nobody does. Okay, that's factual. That's all I'm saying. So I think that's important. A couple of other things that I think are really important is, I mentioned a little bit, but I really want the leaders to understand that you do not launch a new product without doing 2 things. Relaunching your brand. So here's what I'm saying. Let's say you have a brand new product and it's really going to be great and I can't wait. Don't be the company that launches that product, spends the money on it, and a year later, the brand itself hasn't really gained anything because everything was about that product. When you create that new product, it should be a reflection of your brand, and you should do a relaunch of your brand. Now you say, oh, that's a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. Make sure your brand is part of the message. Our new product features blank, blank, and blank, which is an improvement on dot, dot, dot. That's because our brand believes in this, this, and that. So all of a sudden, yes, you're launching that new product, but you're relaunching your brand. So do that. The second thing, which will add up to then 3 things I've given to you when you launch it, is celebrate it, not just educate your people, celebrate it with your people first. And then anyone who is connected to your business, meaning if you have distributors and dealers, right after you work with the employees and maybe their families and celebrate it, have the dealers and distributors understand, have your suppliers understand what you're doing, share it with them so they feel a sense of ownership. If you do that, it's great. I'll throw a bonus in too. Here's a bonus one. Your experience, your brand experience or your customer experience, okay? Your customers, this is really important, do not distinguish between the experience they get from you and your brand. If they are treated poorly by your sales reps or if you have a distributor, they think poorly of your brand. If it's a car dealer and you go in and let's say, Debra, you're not treated with respect at that car dealer and you wanted to buy that car, you walk out and say, I'm never going to buy that brand. Well, that brand didn't do that. That dealer did. So the brand needs to know, whether it's an in-house salesperson or distributor dealer, we as customers look at that experience as your brand. So make sure you have consistency in your brand. If you're the great, warm, loving brand, then you have to make sure your salespeople and customer people treat customers like that. They have to be treated that way, and that's why it's so important. You don't want to be a commodity because commodities have no personality. So you have a chance with your experience to stand out and have differentiation. So those are some of the things I can suggest.
That is absolutely fantastic. It's been a wealth of information here, not just those 3-4 tips, but a whole bunch of stuff we've talked about. I've taken copious amounts of notes here, but I think the biggest thing for me is that we've got to fight the commodity monster. If you really want to realize value for your brand and for your company and also improve the engagement of your internal team and your people, fight the commodity monster. Yeah. Differentiation. Hey, Barry, look, thank you so much. If people do want to find out more, I know you've got your book that is The Power of Differentiation, Win Hearts, Minds, and Market Share. How do they find that?
They find it anywhere Simon & Schuster exists, which is all over the world, but you can go right to Amazon, go to your bookstore, look for The Power of Differentiation. My name is LaBov, L-A-B as in boy, O-V as in Victor. So L-A-B-O-V. Now, they can reach out to me, anybody in the audience, and I do get reach outs and I love it. You go to my LinkedIn. I will respond to anybody that says, hey, I heard you on Debra's podcast. I have a question. If it's Debra's podcast, I'm saying, talk to me. So do that. And you can check out my website, barrylabov.com. You'll hear some of my music on there if you want, and some of my other books. And my company's website, LaBov, L-A-B-O-V.com. So a lot of ways to reach out. I'm happy to talk to anybody. I'm happy to help anybody.
You're absolutely wonderful. Look, thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed it. I look forward to keeping in contact and following your music jamming.
Well, I appreciate it. The goal that my company has with our message is we want to inspire 1 million people worldwide, and you're helping us.
Great. I'm pleased that we can help with that, and that is a great goal to have. Good luck with that. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.